contact with a military member who's injured, anyone who's injured, what you do is you ask them, are you conscious? Are you able to administer self-aid body care? So it's a disservice to you if they can administer their own care. Usually all military personnel have their own IFAC where they can administer body care, so usually in a real scenario they would be doing that themselves, but what you do, like in terms of the simulation, is to ask them if they're able to do so. So that's number one. Everyone understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Fantastic. Then number two is what you do is you administer medical aid in the priority of your ABCs. ABC stand for A, airways, B, breathing, C, circulation. So, airways. So first of all, you want to make sure that they have nothing physically blocking their airways. So that means physically opening, So that means physically opening their jaw to see if there's any foreign objects. So what you do is you do not lift their chin up and jerk forward, because if they have a head injury, if they have some sort of cerebral spinal cord fracture, that could completely render them that's it, paralyzed. So instead, what you do is you take your fingers in the back and you push your jaw forward. By doing that, you give enough room where you can open their airway without moving any sort of vertebra in your neck. Does that make sense? Okay. So for B is breathing. You want to check for if their belly is moving up and down, it's a sign that they're breathing. If you have a mirror, you can hold that up to their mouth and see if the mirror fogs. Obviously, if they're breathing, that's what mirrors will do. You hold it up to them. And you just want to make sure that they're in stable conditions, so when you actively do a triage, you do not compromise their state. And C is circulation. C is for blood flow, for blood loss. So it's very easy to see if you have a physical wound. It's in your chest, it's in your leg. But what you do first to check circulation is you do a body sweep. So what that is, the daylight gives permission to touch. So what you do is when you're lying down, you take both your hands and you brush them behind their back, and do that until they're deep in their back, and continue that all the way down their body. If you come out and you see blood on your hands, you know they have an exit wound. Now, if your patient has an exit wound and you do not patch that up, it is completely your fault that they could or may die because of that. So your primary concern, if you have a visible primary wound, is to check if they have an exit wound. So once that leads me into the actual injuries that you can encounter. So first one we'll say is we have a chest wound with exposing arterial blood. Arterial blood is characterized by a really strong brown color. It's really highly oxygenated or deoxygenated blood, depending on which artery. And it's usually coming out at an extremely high volume. So what you want to do for that, hopefully that is in an area where it's easily able to administer like a tourniquet. So if we say it's in my right leg, you administer a tourniquet high and tight. So you do not administer a tourniquet on anything that's bony. You do not administer a tourniquet on your elbow, on your knee, anything that you can't get a correct seal on, because what a tourniquet does is it restricts blood flow completely to that limb. Also, when you apply a tourniquet, you write down the time at which you did so. You do this because when you get to a surgeon, when you get to a doctor in the hospital, they need to know what time that was applied, because you want to maintain the limb's viability, and you want to, viable means that the limb is still able to be salvaged. So you want to make sure that it's not cut off for so long that it's no longer viable and it has to be amputated. Does that make sense? Okay. If you have also, one thing with a tourniquet, you never, ever, 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 ever remove a tourniquet. Once it's on there, it stays on there. If the tourniquet doesn't work, you apply a secondary tourniquet higher than the primary one and just do it correctly. And make sure it's all the way fastened and all the way strung around, so you can't, you apply a tourniquet so that you can only fit about one finger in between the limb and the tourniquet. If you have a wound, a bullet hole in your chest, we'll say, what you do is you would take your IFAP, which has gauze, and you would pack the wound. So you would physically take the gauze and pack it inside the wound until the bleeding stops. Does that make sense? Okay. Another type of wound that you could have is a sucking chest wound. A sucking chest wound is characterized by the lungs' incapacity to fill and remain filled. So you'll hear a gasping for breath, and you could even see some sort of bubbles forming with the blood that's spewing. And what you do is you take a card, anything that can form an airtight seal, and you tape it on the four sides. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we went over, okay, if you have a fracture, fractures are considered secondary injuries because they are based on the comfort of your patient. They are not our primary concern and are treated as such because they're not in our ABCs. So what you do for a broken limb is you would immobilize the limb. So you would immobilize the limb by taking splints, rods, sticks, anything of your in your surroundings, and you would fixate it with either a tourniquet, your ABU belt, anything that you can get the splint fastened and immobilize the limb. You don't want to immobilize your leg because you don't walk like a penguin. You walk moving your leg as normal. Does anyone have any questions? No questions. So when you go in here, you have to make sure that you are simulating a verbal treatment. So when you encounter your patients, you are not going to touch them, you're not going to do any sort of sweep, you're not going to fixate their airway, you're just going to verbally go through what you would do in this scenario until you have to move into the evacuation zone. Does that make sense? Yes. So we're on time, work a little bit early. Okay, so with that, does everyone, let me just check this really quick. So, no questions? You guys are good?
So as you're going through the 9-line, does someone else also go through those other procedures you talked about?
Okay, so usually when you encounter a lot of medical personnel, patients that are down on the ground, you triage them. Usually there's a medical team and there's someone specifically on call. That's their duty to administer the 9-line, but the medical team is there to triage the patients and make sure that they're in a stable state for the 9-line, for the aircraft that's going to get them and evacuate them. Does that make sense? Okay. Any other questions? Good questions. Yes?
What's the difference between like the two types of bleeding? Because like when you're documenting, it was like red and then...
Yes, so that's arterial blood versus capillary blood. Arterial is characterized by high volume and a brown kind of color. So it's very obvious. Capillary blood is more like surface wounds, and it's characterized by a bright red with lower volume. So trust me, if you ever encounter it, you'll know the difference. Any other questions? Yes. So when you write it down in the field, what they do is they write it down on your forehead, just so it's easily visible for the surgeon. Right when you go in, you write down the time because just once again, just like to maintain the viability of the limb, because you don't want to cut off blood supply so long that the limb dies. You want to apply it in a certain range. Usually it's called like the golden hour. So you have that hour of time where you can temporarily cut off blood supply and then reestablish it through surgery by patching it or specifically sewing. Any other questions? Is that?
not breathing.
Yes.
So I know, like, unless it's not like the military, is everything civilian for not breathing?
Yes.
Like, you can't assume that they want your help, you have to ask permission. If they can't tell you, or like, they don't know, because you're going to treat them, the military will treat them anyway. Or is it always like a sign that you don't treat them that?
So I really don't know the answer to that question because to be like in my eyes, you're on the field, you always want treatment. I don't know why you would deny treatment because you wanna live, right? So I understand like that for certain reasons. Like in the civilian world, there are people who don't want treatment for certain things, don't want to be like that's the DNR, that's the do not resist, things like that. I don't know what the equivalent is in the military, so I can't answer your question honestly.
The norm is to treat them. Often people, if they do not want to be resuscitated, it's not like a document way to do it, but they'll write it on their chest.
I ain't got time to.
Okay. So do y'all have a FTP leader? No? Better. Alright. So this is your intel gathering mission. You're gonna have 5 minutes to plan, about like 4 minutes, honestly. So I'm gonna read this to you. So there is no concrete intel on the enemy stronghold. The enemy, however, is known to store critical information on sheets of paper. Your flight is tasked with sweeping the stronghold for any items containing critical information. Any U.S. military personnel found in the stronghold needs to be rescued. U.S. personnel and critical information need to be transported to the evacuation point.
Where exactly is the stronghold?
Stronghold is the classroom. Okay. Due to high danger in the stronghold, members cannot move alone. Anyone moving singly will cause the whole group to have a 30-second penalty. You'll have 10 minutes to complete the scenario. How you use your time is up to you. So this is your planning stage. Do you have any questions?
5 minutes, you said?
Yeah, like